We are ready to go.
Yeah,
FIFA
baby.
World Cup 2026 knockout rounds and a recap of yesterday's action. Come on.
Come on, baby.
Turn me
Hey,
way, way, way up. Let's go, baby.
you're sending chills down my spine, man. I like the way I like that was real smooth, man. What's the song I know you love? Smooth Operator.
No need to ask, he's a smooth operator. By Sade, yes. You haven't
There
listened
you
to
go.
it, give it a listen.
Yeah, baby. Smooth Operator. There you go. Yeah, dude, you could serenade the people with that one. That's always a classic. Actually, let me turn this thing off real quick. Anyways, um, so you mentioned around the 32. We had we're one match down. So I think from now until it's what Friday are the remaining matchups.
For round of 32,
Yeah,
it is until Friday, yeah.
yeah. So buckle up, man, because it's hard to believe. Tournament before you know it, it's gonna. I think there's only 3 weeks left.
Yeah.
So it's about to be a mad sprint. A blitz. And all these different knockout stages of matches. No more group stages. No more 3 points, 1 point, whatever. It's gonna go home now, baby.
Yep. Yep.
So I know we had the first one already. South Africa and Canada, not too far from here at SoFi. Um, and before we get there as well, we had one final day of the group stages, which was Saturday. I get my days all out of whack here. Um, but that was yesterday. Holy smokes, man! But yeah, man, I want to get your thoughts on everything, just on the round of 32 matchups as well. Whether it was South Africa, Canada, and the other 15 matchups from Monday through Friday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always love to do it. First things first, I do want to say that Iran, like I said, Friday night, they got robbed, plain and simple. For the events that transpired, uh, for it to happen to them, it's just there's no place for that in the purest sport in the world. Everybody knows that I love this sport with all my heart. Played it since I was 4 years old. Coached the youth for about 3 to 4 years, and it is the sport of the world. Anybody can play it, and for that to happen is simply unacceptable. And there's just too many things that just don't add up, man, for this. And starting off with, we talked about it, but the VAR calls where it's a centimeter, a millimeter, um, is outrageous. And Uzbekistan had the lead. Congo, Yohan Wissa, I believe he got a brace, right? He did. He did his thing. Croatia, Ghana, while it was tied, I know that didn't help. Even if it was a draw, it didn't help them. Congo did their thing. But Algeria, Austria, man. I wanna talk about this one for a bit. In the first half, you had both teams actually, go for it. You saw Austria, Arnautovic hit first. Belghali has a great goal. Just the amount of lead changes, and then I think you saw this, maybe you didn't. After that hydration break in the second half, the game slowed down completely. Okay. And you're saying, okay, at this point, these guys are playing for a draw. All right, they at least it wasn't 0-0 like Paraguay, Australia, right? And then in extra time, um, you had Riyad Mahrez score in the 93rd minute, and there was 5 minutes of extra time. Okay, cool. Celebrations happened. Maybe it took about a minute and a half or something off of the extra time. So naturally they added, okay, yes, understood. And then you saw Algeria just not even defend, bro. You saw, I mean, like it was simply like outrageous. And Austria score at the death, and then maybe 10 seconds later the full-time whistle is called, and it ends in a draw, a 3-3 draw. And I'm sorry, man. It just it it doesn't, I don't know, man. I just it's not adding up. And I feel so bad for the players, okay? Keyword players. I feel so bad for them. And people that are following the Iranian national team have every right and more to be upset and to think what they want to think, because that's just that's just crazy, man. It really is.
Yeah, you know what, man? I'm gonna leave it at that. I think, yeah, I think it's always, good to get the perspective of others, and uh, I think I'm gonna let that speak for itself, and leave that for now. Let what you say for now. Let that marinate a little bit. Give that a little oxygen, if you will. And then, obviously, I'm sure it won't be the only time that we'll talk about it, but I think it's very fascinating for me to be able to hear that from your point of view. So I would just like to leave that at that for now, and let that speak for itself at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, and this isn't even about. It's not about Egypt, okay? It's not at all, okay? Because I say that um, if the result held at 2-1 Iran, Egypt would have gone through as a third place side, right? Four points. Maybe it would have been a +1 goal differential. They would have gone through. So it's not even about Egypt. Again, I'm gonna say it over and over and over. Iran was the better team. Maybe I forgot to mention, but you actually talked about it when we spoke on Friday night about it. Um, Mehdi Taremi did miss a penalty, but nevertheless, you and I cannot have a recording today and not speak about that. That's just a disservice to covering the World Cup. Simple as that. It's not even about me trying to be controversial here. And I think you know me above all else. I am not one who likes to believe in these kind of things, but that was just extremely puzzling. Now, moving on to the other games to end group stage play. England, Panama, scoreless at half. Jude Bellingham with another great game, goal and assist. Harry Kane is your new um, World Cup top scorer for his nation. Nobody more deserving than him. He got a lot of heat for missing that chance against Ghana there at the death to not seal the group against them after match day two, but man, sometimes it's just about patience, dude. It really is. It's as simple as that. They get it done, and they top the group, and they'll get Congo. Colombia, Portugal. What a game! Again, another one, man. Another one where his damn toenail is offside. And you're just sitting there, and you're like, what the hell? Like, genuinely, but nevertheless, I thought both teams had their chances. I think Colombia uh, beat Portugal in every statistic. Let me pull that up really quick. Higher expected goals, 1.7 to point 0.9. Higher possession, although possession, it's one of those metrics where it's like you can have such meaningless possession. Um, Shots on goal, 6 to 2. Big chances created, equal at 1. Big chances missed, equal at 2. More accurate passes. Um, Portugal won more duels. Um, and Portugal had more saves. Now, I think in the first half, man, you saw a Colombian side similar to what happened in their game against Congo. They got going early, and they had those chances, and then so basically, man. Long story short, here momentum uh, was flipping rather at a freakish pace. You saw Colombia in their half. You saw Portugal in Colombia's half. Portugal had those chances. Colombia had more. Um, but nevertheless, Colombia topped the group. They have the quote unquote easier path, but we'll get to it later. At this point, um, if a nation is in the knockout phase, you have to respect them, and you have to respect your opponent. And no opponent is quote unquote easy. But Colombia get it done. They top the group. Remember in our World Cup preview, man, I I said it. I was like, I really should have Colombia topping the group, but I don't want to do it for whatever damn reason. But they do. Big shout out to Colombia there. And finally, is there any other game that I might have missed? Jordan, Argentina. Again, Jordan do get a goal. So for them to put up 3 goals in this tournament is outstanding for them. Defensively, there's a lot to work on. You had a pretty solid idea of what will transpire in this Argentina Jordan game. I thought Messi's free kick for him to score was a load of horse shit. Jordan's keeper, I think all of us know who have watched the Jordanian national team play, is just not really a good keeper. And I don't know how you don't see it, bro. It wasn't a signature Messi free kick. It really wasn't, dude. I don't know what in God's name he saw. However, he got his goal. Good for him. If he wins the Golden Boot, so be it. Us at Le Bleu, we're not focused on Golden Boots. We're focused on the World Cup. Okay. And by the way, I got 2 guys with 4 goals. So um, that's that. But they top the group. They do their thing. Okay. And that game went as expected.
All right. What did you think about this South Africa Canada match to kick off the knockout stages?
You thought the game would go as it went. Canada with being the more dangerous side. It was a matter of can South Africa muster up one chance and can it find the back of the net? Um, and it was simply just Canada scoring at the end of extra time. I mean, bro, point 0.1 expected goals for South Africa. Like, I don't know. One shot on target. Like, South Africa knew what they were doing. Um, they knew they knew that um, they would suffer, and Canada got their breakthrough. And Alfonso Davies finally played for Canada, and he didn't have to start. He got 25 minutes, so that's a big development for them. The only issue for Canada is you're going to play the winner of Netherlands and Morocco. That's the problem there. But they finally get a knockout round win. Again, man, for Canada, you hope that it inspires the youth teams and the FA to really, put more money into this. And it's an opportunity to really get going, because for them to do it finally in their national team history, to qualify, to get that first win, to get a knockout round win, you can only play who's in front of you. So they did it all in one tournament, and it's special for them. So that today's is about them. It's their moment.
All right. What about these other 15 matches? I want to get your take on those and kind of what you're looking out for. What you're expecting in each of those matches. We can just run through it in order. starting with tomorrow's matches and running on
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
Get your perspective on all those.
yeah,
So if I'm not mistaken, the first one is going to be Brazil and Japan.
yeah. I mean, bro, first things first, the people need your perspective too. Okay, like let's
Well,
make that
definitely.
clear. Let's get that, let's
I
get that
love
out
that, man.
there.
Appreciate that. Well, I'll tell you what. I appreciate that, man. As far as South Africa and Canada goes, I think you said it pretty well. I think that match was pretty much according to script. I feel like I think South Africa knew that if they were going to advance, they were going to have to take that thing into. It was going to have to be a 120-minute battle and probably get your chances in the shootout. Um, there weren't really a ton of overly convincing chances, maybe a couple of decent ones. But credit to Canada and our boy Mr. Estachio for a nice little match winner to send them to the round of 16. And um, credit to South Africa. We talked about it a little bit. In previous renditions, and it's worth repeating where for them to look and play about as bad as you could possibly play in any match on the World Cup opener about 17 days ago against Mexico out at the Azteca, and for them to bounce back and be able to qualify out of the group and to really, really I mean, it took a stoppage time winner in the second half for Canada to break the scoring. I think like you said, you can only play who's in front of you. Um, and they gave it a valiant fight and a valiant effort, and I give them credit for that, for showing the resolve to be able to not only make it into the knockout stages, but to give it a go. Probably wasn't the best match for people, maybe in a neutral's perspective, but I think for the diehards of the sport, I think it was a fun one, and it's been cool to see either of these teams move on. So for it to be Canada, I think it's pretty cool, man. They don't get the opportunity to play in Canada. That's they had at Inglewood, and then I think that the round of 16 is going to be in Dallas or something like that, or Houston. Correct me if I'm wrong.
For Japan,
Uh,
Brazil.
no, no, no. For Canada against the winner of Morocco and
Oh,
the Dutch.
let me see.
But
Because
Japan Brazil was
Brazil,
in Dallas too, right?
it's in Houston. Yeah, it's in Houston.
Which one's in Houston?
Brazil, Japan, and
Okay,
then for Canada, it is in Houston as well. So Houston's got some pretty good knockout stage games.
there you go, man. Shout out to you.
Yeah, yeah,
H Town's getting the good matchups.
yeah.
But no, I think all in all, you gotta give some love to both, and to Canada, not Canada. We'll get to Morocco and the Dutch in a little bit, but um, yeah, dude, I think as far as the knockouts go, I think it feels like the calm before the storm, if you will. And now that there's going to be 3 matches a day from Monday through Friday, to get us from 32 down to 16, I think a real fun treat to kind of come in and be able to see how that picture plays out the rest of the upcoming week. Um, so yeah, gotta give love words too. But then yeah, Brazil, Japan. Obviously, I'd like to get your thoughts too, but I think this is one of those, man, where I could see Japan coming through out of the for sure. It wouldn't shock me by any stretch of the imagination if Japan were able to make it out of this matchup. But I want to see what you think it would take for that to happen. How likely you think that is to happen? Because I think obviously if we're gonna maybe think about it from a who's the favorite perspective, you would probably say that it's Brazil, but I think we would be doing a service to talk about that matchup as if it's a foregone conclusion that Brazil is gonna advance when and very well it could be moving on too. I think they'll give them a good game. at least, if Brazil move forward, they're gonna have to work for it.
100%. Absolutely, I agree. Brazil will have to work for it. For Japan to win, it's pretty simple. You have to contain Vinny, but from what I've seen in group stage play, Vinny is on a mission. He is putting Brazil on his back, and he is playing at a level that, of course, Madridistas know and love. Absolutely. But there's been prior tournaments in when Vinny is representing Brazil, and it hasn't looked in that manner. Talking about Copa America the last time here in the U.S., of course. So it's his team. Neymar, declared that. He said it's his team, and Mateus Cunha is also having a wonderful tournament as well.
Oh yeah,
So
he's a
it's
fun
it's
player.
it's about it's about containing them too. Um, in my opinion, one of them will score. It's simply about if Japan can create chaos in the midfield and not allow Brazil to build up play and have Vinny or Cunha take on defenders one on one and stuff like that, then Japan has a pretty good chance. Japan have to score. Um, Really, I mean, I'm not gonna count the game against Tunis. They've only scored 2 goals against good opposition. Speaking, or I'm sorry, three against good opposition. The Dutch and Sweden. So they need to put up goals because you already know that Vinny Cunha is going to be lethal. And again, they just have to create chaos in the midfield. For Brazil, is Casemiro going to start because Japan play very fast. They're not a uh, they don't slow down the tempo or anything, man. They want to push the ball up. They move quick off the ball. They move so well. So is he going to play? Is the question. And um, if he does start and it doesn't work out for him, expect Carlo to make that change rather quickly. And Brazil, like you said, they're decently favored. I think because of the names that Brazil do have, but Japan will be tough. With Japan, I was a little bit let down from the last tournament in Qatar, where they did lose to Croatia on penalties in the round of 16. I know that penalties can go either way, of course, but I saw that. I remembered that, and I said to myself, okay, and with Vinny on this mission, and the link up play between Cunha and Vinny is right now pretty darn special. It's up there with Olise and Kylian and Ousmane Dembele. So with that being said, I do think Brazil will go through.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun one, man. I feel like kind of the makings of one of those 1-1 after 90 minutes, and we'll get some extra time, and I think it'll be competitive. But I do agree. I think Brazil will find a way to make it through, but with the caveat that if Japan, you're not gonna get like one of those holy smokes, how did that happen? Like that came out of nowhere sort of things. But I do think Brazil will find a way to get past what will be a tough matchup in a round of 32. When we get to some of these matchups, I think you're looking at it where man, it's going to take something for one of but it's not one of those matchups, and that's less about Brazil, and that's just more about Japan, in my opinion. Like I do think Brazil good shot, to make a decent run out of things, and if they're able to get, like you mentioned, Vinny and Cunha, like, if they're able to keep it going in the knockout stages, like in a one off like that, when you have players like that, you're always going to have a chance. And a manager like Carlo, you feel like maybe that gives you a little bit of a tactical advantage in some matchup. So, um, so I think this is going to be a fun one, just the stylistic contest, and it should be a fun atmosphere as well for what will be an early. 10 a.m. out here on the West Coast. You mentioned that's in Houston, so that's an early kickoff in Houston, but I'm sure it'll be a fun, festive atmosphere. Knock on wood, not would be a crime with two nations like that. But then moving on to Germany and Paraguay. We mentioned South Africa and them playing against Mexico. We've talked about Paraguay. For them to bounce back the way that they played against the United States, and for them to be able to get the against Turkey and Turkey, and then for them to, I mean, we talked. You talked about it earlier, like and let's not forget about Australia, Paraguay too. That definitely, that was a. Uh, I mean, they were for a draw. I think Paraguay were gonna, didn't really care to win that game. They just wanted the point. Here they are. Here's their opportunity. You get Germany. You figure if they're gonna have any chance, they're gonna probably have very limited possession of the ball, and they're gonna passes off and hope that they can keep Germany scoreless as long as possible.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think Germany will just smother them. And when I say smother, I'm talking about dominate possession, be in their half of the field, and it is just really difficult against quality opposition to hold a team to no goals for so long. And I think Germany learned a lot, and they definitely looked in the mirror after their defeat against Ecuador, so they have to come out and play well. And I think they will. I think they'll get it done in 90 minutes and Germany will move on.
Do you think it's going to be one of those matches where Paraguay can keep it close, or do you think maybe Germany early goal and the floodgates open a little bit?
I think first half it can stay scoreless, and then the floodgates will open later on in the second half. Tired legs, it's stuff of that nature.
Okay. All right. And then we mentioned Netherlands and Morocco. That's the nightcap tomorrow. I'm glad that that's
For
as
real,
much as
same.
yeah, as much as I wish Brazil Japan was not at 10 a.m. I guess the consolation prize, if you will, was at least Netherlands and Morocco's at 6 p.m., which on paper should be one of the better matches that we talk about in the round of 32. I mean, that's a spicy matchup in a round of 16 even. So for that to be around a 32 matchup, um, with the winner going on to play Canada, who we mentioned Canada clinched the first spot in the knockout stage, round of 16, if you will. Um, this is an interesting one for me. I feel like it could go either way. I'm curious to see your thoughts because I know you've been high on Morocco, but perhaps maybe the Dutch have swayed you to go one way, or I don't know who you're gonna ride with in this one. So I'm interested to see your thoughts.
Yes, I picked Morocco. I picked Morocco here. They have done this before. They've pulled the upsets off against European opposition. They have enough. Ayoub Boadi is going to boss that midfield, in my opinion. He didn't play against Haiti, so he is well rested, well prepared, and ready to go. And Ismail Sabati has scored in every single game.
He's gonna
Hakimi got
score
on.
again.
He's Hakimi's got on the score sheet. You know what's funny is I don't know if I had a friend of mine. Um, he was on Kalshi asking for my opinion and thoughts on some of the propositions and whatnot. And I said, I think Ismail Sabati is going to score 1000%. And he was trying to find Ismail on Kalshi and he wasn't there. I don't know if it's him just not knowing like the interface or something, the platform. But we saw literally every other name except him. And I'm laughing about it. And I was telling him, I was like, dude, they know he's gonna score. That's why he's not on the proposition.
That's funny, man. Well, maybe that's some foreshadowing.
I guess, dude. I
I
guess. I
yeah,
guess.
there you go. There
I
you go.
guess.
I
I
guess so.
guess so. I
I
guess
guess
so.
yeah, there you go. That's funny, man. That's funny. Well, yeah, I'm
So
with you. I got Morocco as well. I mean, I think it'll be a fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Just from a neutral's perspective, it's definitely a match I want to watch and be able to take in the full, whether it's a 90, 120-minute shootout, whatever. It's like, I want to. That's one of those matches you want to carve out the time and be able to watch. Um, the I think it's gonna be a fun matchup. It wouldn't shock me if the Dutch win, but I'm gonna ride with Morocco. I don't even really think it'll be an upset. I think they're I think when looking at the Dutch, I still don't, they played well, but I think to myself, well, who did they put in match day one, they drew that, and then they played Sweden. Obviously, it's the 5-1 game, and then you played Tunis, who I mean, that doesn't even really that I mean that might as well have been a friendly. So I feel like there's still not enough of a sample size for me to really change my opinion in not taking Morocco, despite the fact that the Dutch topped the group. I feel confident that even though I think it'll be a fun matchup, and I can see it going either way. I'm rocking with Morocco, and I'm pretty confident in that. And I think you mentioned Ismail Saibari. They're not gonna, yeah, they probably know he's gonna score, man. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's a good player, man. You mentioned he's Bayern Munich bound.
Uh-huh.
The rich get richer. We'll get to the club season in due time, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's a fun player. And you mentioned Ayub and Hakimi. Yeah, I just think Morocco is going to be able to. I think Morocco will be more comfortable in the style of play at a match that both sides are going to want to play, if that makes sense.
100%, 100%. So, we can't move on without just having our thoughts and prayers to Cody Gakpo. His partner suffered a miscarriage. Devastating news. I think, man, people forget that athletes, um, and people just who are on this big stage in the World Cup are humans too. We saw Jeremy Doku go on leave to be with his wife or partner, I'm not sure, for the birth of his child. Didier Deschamps go back to France for the funeral of his mother, and now Gakpo's partner suffers a miscarriage. With that being said, I did Google it. They are saying that Cody is expected to play against Morocco, but thoughts and prayers there. And
My prayers. I honestly, I did not hear about that. So that's true, man. Rest in peace. And if he does play, I would for a Cody Gakpo goal.
yeah,
But
yeah,
like
yeah,
you said,
yeah.
there are some things that are bigger than sports, and that's one of them. So,
Yeah.
uh, I hope him and you mentioned partner. I hope they both find
Peace,
that's
and they're
exciting.
given privacy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You give them grace and treat them kindly, and it's definitely it's one of the tragedies of life, and so one of the bigger things, way bigger. But if he does end up playing, obviously wish him the best, well beyond whatever happened on the pitch. Him and his partner. That's a tragedy, man. There's no other way to put. It. Speaking of tragedies, though, not to make a really bad segue, uh, but you know, in moving on to the next matchup, which is the 10 a.m. Pacific kickoff on Tuesday. Um, obviously, again, not a horrible segue, probably, but I still can't really this Norway situation, with what they did against your French, Allez les
Mm,
Bleus. I know probably the conventional prediction, most people would probably take Norway. Talked about Ivory Coast. I think they're a really fun side. I think they're better than they probably get credit for.
hmm
And if it wasn't for this factor, to be honest with you, I think I'd probably still feel a certain way. But just based on what Norway did, I just feel like that's something that angers the sports gods, man. You don't fuck with a thing like that. Some people might agree or disagree. Some people might say it was a smart thing, rested their players, and keeping them fresh for the round of 32. Um, I just feel like it gives Ivory Coast all the motivation in the world. Not that you need any extra because it's a World Cup knockout stage match, but I mean, we talked about it the other day. You put that on a whiteboard, and you put it in big bold letters, and you make sure everybody from the all the coaches and the players and support staff and everybody make sure that everybody in that dressing room knows that Norway intentionally chose to be in this matchup. And they, they preferred to play in the matchup after with your French playing Sweden. Uh, I want to see what you think about this matchup, who you got, and then maybe rationale from a little bit more definitely of a level-headed perspective, maybe than mine. In case it wasn't obvious, I'm rocking with Ivory Coast, baby. I hope they. I just I don't rock with what Norway did. I can't get behind it, and obviously if they win, they won't apologize for it. But whether they win or lose, I still don't like it. So I want to see what you think about this matchup.
Yeah, heard loud and clear on their decision to rest their starters against Les Bleus with an opportunity to top the group. I hinted at it beforehand on the podcast. I think it's a bad matchup for Ivory Coast. I don't necessarily trust that they can contain Erling Haaland, and I think Norway play a lot more organized brand of football in comparison to Ivory Coast. But with that being said, it will be a tough game. I'm expecting some goals here. I do think that Norway are going to double Jan Diomande. They saw that work out well for Germany. It kind of disrupted their rhythm a little bit. So as a result, your other guys need to step up. I'm talking about Amad Diallo. He kind of went cold a little bit after his opening goal against Ecuador. Maybe, just maybe, he's better suited coming off of the bench as a super sub. Who knows? I'm interested to see if Ivory Coast's manager thinks the same. But I do think that Norway will go through for the reasons I just outlined.
All right, fair enough. Now, the floor is yours, man. France, Sweden, Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific
In Jersey.
in Jersey, back where it began.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I want to get your take on this round of 32 match, France and Sweden, and how you feeling about it.
Yeah, so Victor Gyökeres already came out and said this about the matchup. And I quote, "We will have to be at our best. We have to do our defensive organization almost perfect. And then, of course, take the chances we will get." So he already revealed the game plan to me. Sweden is going to be defensive heavy. And what they want to do is they want to catch France on the counter, and they will take their chances with 1v1s, whether that's Gyökeres against Dayut, or Isak against him, or their two strikers, and even Anthony Alanga against Saliba. So that is exactly what they're going to do. I knew that coming in. So that is what they're going to do here. They will have everybody back. They will make the spaces compact, and they will try to um, they'll try to disrupt France. And when I say disrupt, I'm talking about make them frustrated out there that they're not moving freely and they're not able to muster any passes into the final third and get in the box and whatnot, and play the brand of football that we've seen them play throughout the group stage. So the only way to break that deadlock early and force them to not have this game plan is to score early. So it will be very interesting to see. I'm not sure. I haven't looked up yet if Didier is going to come back for this game. Most likely, I think he will. Given there you go. I just googled it, and he's gonna come back. So Monsieur Didier is back, and they they know Sweden pretty well, and if you're Le Bleu, you're gonna play your brand. You're gonna do what you do, and like I said, the next level for this team is to play a complete game. So I want to see that, and I think a game like this where the opposition's game plan is like this can be a great opportunity for Rayan Cherki to showcase his talents because he's somebody that can, with his vision and passing, can find those holes that maybe not other players do see, and can make a difference off of the bench because while maybe he hasn't played a whole lot and hasn't had the opportunity to showcase his talents, he's been a bit underwhelming so far this World Cup. So, Rayan, I'm calling on you, and I'm happy that Saliba got his rest. Um, and Sweden will play him tough, but I think with this French team, I don't think it had the opportunity really to talk about some of the selfless play from the team, but. Um, Kylian recognized that against Norway it was Usman's day, and he let Usman cook. And Olise is being completely unselfish, and is just feeding his guys. Kylian also fed the ball to Olise for a chance for him to score. I saw I saw Kylian track back and defend. I saw Bradley Barcola track back and defend. So this feels different, and I think Les Bleus know this. They know that they have to break the deadlock early, and I think they will get a goal in the first half, and then the floodgates can open in the second half because we saw if the Dutch are capable of putting five on the Swedes, then so is Les Bleus. I understand that the game plan and the strategy was very different, and Graham Potter learned his lesson. But it's certainly doable, and at the end, I think Les Bleus will get it done.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly, man. Not much I can really add to that. I think something we'll continue to talk about with Sweden. I mean, they had a brutal qualifying campaign and only really are here because of their Nations League that qualification that got them into the playoff, and probably a more talented team than what they did in qualifying, anyways. I mean, I think we've talked about it. Any side that's got not only one but two of those guys up top, and Isak and Gyökeres, and Elonga's been having a great tournament. I mean, he's been doing some fun things. I mean, it feels like every match in the group stages he was brilliant. Ayari's a talented player. I mean, they got some talented guys, and I think you said it best. They're gonna play like they did against Japan, probably even more so. They're gonna sit back. They'll take their chances if and when they come. But if you're Sweden, you're doing everything you can to keep that match scoreless as long as possible. The worst thing for Sweden will be an early France goal, but if they can somehow find a way to keep it tied 0-0 heading into halftime, I think Sweden will fancy their chances to take a riverboat gamble at the end of the day. And I don't expect it to happen necessarily. I think France will win. But I do I see the blueprint for Sweden. It's just a
Yeah,
matter of can they execute it. Um,
and Didier outcoaches Graham Potter. Done.
yeah, I
Consider
mean,
that done. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's
So I think I think I see what Sweden's game plan. I think you said is pretty obvious. I think with the talent that they have up top, if they're able to execute that game plan, they'll have a puncher's chance, even though France are the favorites, obviously, and if Sweden win, it'll be, I mean, that'll be an upset. We can call a spade a spade. Like, it won't
Yep.
be,
Yeah.
um, but it's also, Sweden's not, maybe even though they haven't played the greatest in qualifying, and even in the group stages, they weren't maybe outstanding by any stretch of the imagination. They did enough to get here. And in a one off, dude, anything can happen. So I think France are the favorites, obviously. I'm taking France. You're not going to hear me take Sweden or anything like that. But I do see like if Sweden is going to have a chance, that's what they're going to have to do. It's going to be 10 behind the ball. They're going to have to defend like Paraguay's going to do tomorrow, and some of these other games we'll get into. They're going to have to be comfortable not being on the ball, and just closing down gaps, absorbing pressure, and finding a way to keep that sheet as clean as possible as long as you can. But I mean, with France, dude, I mean, you mentioned it. They've got so many players that even if Sweden is able to keep it deadlocked longer than maybe some people would expect, France have got all these guys off the bench that would be starting for any other nation in the country.
Hmm.
I mean, the World Cup, I should say. They'd be starting for any other country in the World Cup. So you mentioned a guy like Ryan Shirky, for example. Like that dude starts any other 32, 48, whatever it is. Like it's just a luxury at that point. So even if, I mean, for all we know, it could be 3-0 France at halftime, and they don't even need Shirky. But in a universe where it's 0-0 and it's like the 60 something minute, 67th minute, one of these freaking hydration breaks or something comes around, and you're thinking, hey, how are we going to unlock this match? The fact that you've got a guy like that who you can just kind of plug in there, I mean, that's a luxury, man. He, like I said, he starts anywhere else. So yeah, France would be the favorites. I know you're going to be geeked up for them. I don't know if you're going to be watching that live or if you're going to record it, watch it
100%,
later.
100%. I don't have cable or anything like that or DVR, so
Okay,
I will
I'm
absolutely
baby.
watch. And let's talk about Gyökeres and the Saliba matchup. These guys know each other very well, so
That's right.
let's
That's right.
they know each other pretty well. Let's see what
That's
happens.
right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
I mean, Saliba's incredible, man. I mean
yeah.
that dude. That dude is such a good player. I mean, as much as we want to talk about, and rightfully so, like the attacking guys, like Saliba's just as good as all of those guys, if not better. To be honest with you, I mean, he's really good, man. He deserves a lot of love, but yeah, those guys know each other. It's gonna be a fun matchup. I think. For Sweden to have any sort of chance, again, they're gonna have to be able to, absorb pressure and limit France. And then on the counter, you're gonna need a moment of brilliance from one of those guys, whether it's Gyökeres or Isak or Elanga.
Hmm.
Like I said, dude, Anthony Elonga's been fun to watch. I think he could
Yeah.
be, if I think if anything positive for Sweden's gonna happen, it's gonna come through him in some capacity, whether him directly scoring and maybe finding a way into, especially coming down the wing like that with his speed and pace. He's a fun player. He can, if you if you're able to get it, it's not impossible, I guess. But I think France will get it done. But I'm interested to see how Sweden do in this matchup. I really am because I can see a scenario. I can see both scenarios. I can see the scenario where Sweden keep it close and it's a competitive match, and I can also see the scenario where France, spread that baby open and take them to town, man. So I see both scenarios.
Forget that. We're gonna open the floodgates, and we're gonna
All
do
right, yeah, there you go. So there you go. So
it.
forget the other scenario. Let's just rock with the floodgates,
Yes, sir.
baby.
Yes,
Love it,
sir.
baby. Well, speaking of floodgates, this Mexico Ecuador matchup, I think you and I are
Oh,
probably going to be in agreement. That one is going to be the opposite of floodgates, my man.
yeah, yeah,
You
and
know, that, and you know what though? It could be one of those matches where maybe, I will say it could be one of those matches where, because both sides are super defensive oriented, that they find ways to score against each other, and it ends up being a 2-2 match or something like that. But I do want to get your thoughts on this Mexico Ecuador matchup at the Azteca.
we made our knockout stage brackets this morning, last night, and I had our boy Vince call me out because I have Ecuador advancing. I know it's wild, it's wicked, it's crazy. I know. At the Azteca and the home field advantage, I'm completely understanding. But hear me out. Hear me out. This is the worst possible matchup for Mexico, man. to play an Ecuador side that we've talked about are so organized defensively, and they finally saw um, goals go in, and they beat Germany, who did not rest anyone. They are extremely confident, and they think that they can beat anyone at this point in time. And I worry about this matchup because I just think 11v11 that Ecuador have the better players, and I understand that it's not about the better players in the one-off, but like I said, Ecuador beating Germany, it adds that much more confidence to them, and it's the worst possible matchup for Mexico. I worry about Mexico. I know that they did not concede any goals in group play. That can't last forever, and they've only scored six. Right? You know, I'm talking with South Africa with two red cards. They scored two against Korea. If that mistake doesn't happen, is that a 0-0 draw? And Czechia just didn't even want to be there. You know, they simple as that. But that's the game that they did score three, so give them credit there. I just think with an organized Ecuadorian side and the confidence that they will have heading into this, um, and I think Moises will play really really well. He's my Chelsea man. I stand by him through it all. And I love Ecuador's backline with Pacho and Capier. They're so sound and disciplined, and I think they get it done.
Yeah, you know what, man? I think this is one of those where, like you said, I mean, it's the worst possible matchup, maybe in a sense that they could have gotten any of these other third place sides, and I think you feel pretty confident regardless. But like, it's unfortunate in the sense that these two teams have to play each other in the round of 32 because I think either one of them could make a run, on other sides of the bracket. And the fact they have to play each other, only one of them will get the opportunity to do that. Whereas I think if they were in other places, I think they both could move on. I don't think. Listen, I'll say this: Ecuador, number one. I agree with you on everything you said. I do not disagree with anything you said. I will only echo that. You and I have talked about Ecuador before the tournament, during the tournament. Nothing has really changed in the way that I see Ecuador. Um, they are going to be incredibly tough to break down. Arguably the best back line in the entire tournament. We said that before the tournament. Nothing has really changed my opinion on that. Um, they're not going to be intimidated. They've actually had great support themselves, and I'll be interested to see how many Ecuadorians end up at the Azteca on Tuesday night, and see if they're able to make a little bit of noise themselves. Obviously, it's the Azteca, and it's going to be rocking, but you never know how many Ecuadorians might find their way into the stadium. But even if there's not a single Ecuadorian supporter in the entire stadium, they're going to be confident. They're going to believe that I think Ecuador will be confident that Mexico will not be able to score against them. It's just a matter of whether they can score against Mexico. It's one of those things where it has all of them. It kind of reminds me of the early portion of the Stanley Cup Finals when it was the Hurricanes and the Golden Knights, where it's like two
Hmm.
physical defensive teams, and then the first couple games were super high scoring, and it wasn't until the end of the series when the Hurricanes finally were able to blank them and keep them off the scoreboard. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that, where um, in a one-off, I can see I could see it being one of those weird matches where you think it's going to be one of those nil-nil all the way throughout, but maybe it ends up like two cagey defensive teams, and maybe it ends up being like a 2-2 sort of match. Um, but look, I will not be surprised in the slightest if Ecuador win. It is unfortunate to me that these two teams are playing each other because I hate having to pick against either one. It's one of those matchups, to be honest with you, that you hate to have to pick a winner if you have to do that because you really want both of them to win. So honestly, whichever one of them moves on, I'll be rooting for them to make a run, regardless of who they play. Um, I take Mexico, and really the reason I take Mexico is just because I just cannot see a scenario where they I mean, dude, historically, they almost never lose at the Azteca. I mean, it's one of the best home field advantages in any sport. Obviously, Ecuador won't be intimidated by it. It won't surprise me if they find their way through, but I'm betting on Mexico, and I'm betting on that because of the Azteca and that advantage that that will give them. Just I think I'm betting on that place rocking. That's what I'm betting on. If it ends up being like one of these, like like for whatever reason, maybe it's overpriced and it's not that loud for whatever reason. Ecuador, I would take Ecuador, but if it's rocking like it should be, I think that's going to lift Mexico over the edge. I think that atmosphere component is going to be what takes them over the edge, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree.
Well, yeah,
On
it
the
sucks
on
that
the advantage for playing at home. I wholeheartedly agree. And if Ecuador want to win, this game cannot go to extra time or penalties. You got to get it done in the 90. You can't. It
yeah,
can't go on. Yeah, it
yeah,
can't.
that place is going to be
Yeah.
the yeah, that place is gonna be a madhouse for sure. So
Yep.
I think if you're Ecuador, your best case scenario is you find a little bit of an early goal and you put the clamps down and you get out of there 1-0 in 90 minutes. If you're Ecuador, that's probably the blueprint. I think I honestly I could see this being one of those. I think out of all the matches in the round of 32, I think this one is arguably the most likely, in my opinion, to go the distance.
Go the distance, meaning penalties.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think out of all the matchups in the round of 32, I think I am most confident if any of these matches is gonna go all the way go the distance and go to penalties, I think it'll be this one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just think that I think it's gonna be a cagey match. I think they're both, like, if they played a best of 7, obviously, they don't do that, but if they did, like, it would be one of those things where I think it'd be a 7-game series, but they don't do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Ecuador are probably the better side on paper, and they're gonna be tough to break down. So it won't surprise me if Ecuador advance, so I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's not a possibility, but, if I had to make a prediction, I'm betting on the Azteca. That's really what it comes down to, in my opinion. But speaking of the Azteca, waiting on the other side of that, for the round of 16, you've got the first match of Wednesday, first match of I mean, talk about a way to start July, man. You get a World Cup match at 9 a.m. start in July, kicking it off with a bang with England and the Congo. Um, is this one of those you think I'm interested to see how you rate Congo's chances in this one because I don't know what you think about this. So I want to get your thoughts on that and see if you think that Congo can put up a little bit of a fight, or if you think that this one's going to be England advancing relatively comfortably.
I have England advancing relatively comfortably. I think the way that Jude and Harry Kane are playing, it's they're playing really well, man. They both look good. Um, so I do think that's the scenario, and it's different time and different era and everything. I completely understand that and recognize that. But the last time England did play an AFCON side in the knockout phase, they completely bossed Senegal 3-0. So England will take care of business. And if Congo want a shot here, it's got to be what the Congolese keeper did against Colombia, where he is saving every shot known to man for the longest time. And I foresee just great quality of play from England and on the attacking front. Maybe Congo get a goal from individual brilliance from Yohan Wissa or Bakambu. I respect both of them a lot, but I do think it will be a little bit too much for the Congolese backline to to have for them to not score more than a goal or two against this English side.
Yeah, I think I don't know. This is one of those where I actually I think Congo's going to put up a fight. I think Congo will make it tough. I think they'll make England work for it. I think if anything, it'll be one of those where maybe depending on the score line of it, it might even be a little misleading. I think it'll be close for at least a good 60, 70 minutes or so. I think it'll be tight. Look, I got England winning. You're not gonna hear me say I'm picking the Congo or anything, but I do think Congo will play them tough. I think, um, I think Ghana and Panama both kind of showed a little bit of the blueprint where you can frustrate England a little bit. Obviously, they open up the
Hmm.
floodgates a little bit against Panama
Hmm.
in the second half, but I think. It's certainly not out of the realm. I think if you're Congo and you mentioned, guys like Bakambu and Wisa, like, with those two guys, all it takes is one chance and maybe you find a way to even get a goal in. But similar theme with a lot of what we're talking about. I think it's just going to come down to how long can Congo keep it scoreless. If England score early, it's one of those things. I think it's almost done and dusted at that point. But I think if Congo can keep it scoreless, or keep England out of the back of net as long as they can. I think the longer that match goes, the more nervous it'll get. And the more Congo will feel like they have a chance. So I do have England, but I do think it's going to be competitive, and I do think Congo is going to give them a really good run, but I could be wrong.
Ryan, part of my prediction is Thomas Tuchel. I have seen this guy in knockout tournaments, in the knockout phase of tournaments,
That's true.
elevate
That's
his
true.
coaching to a whole new level and height.
That is
And
true.
now that he's
And
seen
that's a big
his
X factor.
right, and now that he's seen his side play in three group stage games, in matches that matter, right? We talked about how easy qualifying was for them in the friendlies and whatnot. But now that he's seen it, he elevates himself. For those that don't know, Tuchel came in mid-season with Chelsea in 2021 and led the team to Champions League glory, changed the formation to a back three, just played it so brilliantly. And then even the next year, I think people forget about this man, but in the quarters, you probably remember they played Madrid, right? And in the first leg at the bridge, Edu Mendy made a couple of mistakes and they were down. Um, was it 2-0 or 3-0, 3-1? I'm just gonna check this really quick. Let me see this. Okay. So Madrid won the first leg 3-1, right? At the bridge. And then Chelsea came back at the Bernabeu. While they won the game 3-2, they lost 5-4 on aggregate. But if you remember, there was some controversy there, and Madrid got through, and I was very, very salty about it. But again, all of this to say, I have seen Tuchel be a mastermind in these knockout phase tournaments. He knows what he's doing.
Yep, that's a fair point. That is a very fair point. Uh, Moving on here to the 1 p.m. Pacific matchup on Wednesday between Belgium and Senegal. Senegal is a team you've watched quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. How do you rate that matchup between those two sides?
I'm surprised Belgium are heavily favored here, bro. I really am. Um, Money line right now, Belgium plus 115, Senegal at 270, and a draw at 220. I'm very shocked that Belgium are favored here. Belgium did not have a great group stage at all. And maybe part of it is the recency bias with their win against New Zealand. And I just spoke about, if you want to, and maybe this is hypocritical of me, but I don't think it is, for the sole purpose that the opponents, Ecuador and Belgium, played are on completely separate levels. But with that being said, I have a Senegal upset here. I do think Senegal get it done. I know that in their game against Iraq, Iraq got a red card early, and that definitely helped them open the floodgates. but even before then, Senegal was up, and Senegal can score goals. You know, they are capable. I've said that over and over again. They are capable of scoring goals. The question for them is defensively, but I think Senegal do just enough, and they will get it done. If I'm the coach, I think his name is Pape Thiaw. I don't start Nico Jackson. I don't start him. I know he brings the pace and whatnot, but you need finishers. And Ismaili Assar is having an exceptional tournament. I don't know why people are not talking about the way he has played in this tournament enough, frankly. We haven't seen anything yet from Sadio Mane. Is this the time in the knockout rounds where he can show what he's about? But I'm not sold on Belgium whatsoever, and I do think they crash out early. This is the best possible matchup for a Senegalese side that did finish third in the group. In the group,
Yeah, honestly, I'm with you, man. I don't even think it's an upset. I'm rocking with Senegal. I think Senegal's going to do it. I don't think Belgium are really that great. And I think Senegal, man, just because they finished in third place, is less to do with them and just being in a tough group. But I think they'll take those lessons learned and they'll beat Belgium, man.
there you go. All right. And then now it's the U.S. and Bosnia, Santa Clara, California, 5 p.m. to end July 1st here. Um, US take care of business. This is the best possible matchup for a US team that topped the group. They're well rested, clean slate of yellow cards, and they will get it done on against Bosnia.
Yeah, you know what, man? I think, Bosnia is gonna make it tough and they'll be tough to break down. But obviously if you're the United States, you're going into that matchup thinking anything less than a victory for the United States obviously is gonna be
Failure.
disappointment.
Hmm.
I honestly I can't believe how many people are hugging a choo-choo train to the USA to go, like go win the whole thing. But that's a separate conversation. But
Well, since you talked
um,
about it, let's have a brief little discussion here. In on the ESPN Knockout Bracket Challenge, 10% of brackets are predicting the US to win it all.
I
I don't
don't
know
know,
if
but
it's just USA homers. I don't, I'm very, very surprised at that metric.
yeah, I don't know about that one, man. But you know
Yeah,
what? Hey, USA, baby. Look, Bosnia will make it tough, but I'll be shocked if the US don't move on, you know?
yeah, yeah, I agree.
Anyways, first matchup of Thursday, 12 o'clock Pacific time, Spain and Austria. How do you see this one unfolding?
I will be there at SoFi Stadium. Very excited to have the opportunity to go to a knockout stage game and for it to be Spain and to have the opportunity to see Lamine Yamal play is extremely special. So I'll be there. We'll be there. And Spain will take care of business here. I talked about it on Friday about my concerns about Spain, but with the caveat that in the Euros in 2024, they elevated to a whole new height and level in the knockout phase. And I think they will do just that against Austria. I saw Austria in 2024 in the Euros. I'm not particularly impressed at all by them by any stretch of the imagination. I think Spain will boss that midfield and it'll be a quiet day for Austria. Spain will take care of business. Maybe it's a 2-0 win. I'm not saying Spain will blow them out the park because Austria are they are organized and they will defend. But I think Lamine will cook, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, in Austria certainly won't be pushovers. I mean, with the like you said, I think it'll be competitive. maybe a little bit, but I'd be surprised if Spain don't advance. Obviously, kind of similarly to what we were talking about with the USA and Bosnia. I mean, two totally different matchups, but like with Bosnia, I think they'll compete. Um, but the US will go through, and then I think Austria will compete, but Spain will go through. Might not be an absolute beat down or anything like that, but I think as long as they advance, I don't think anybody's going to mind on the Spanish side of things. Um, but
They need to
yeah,
play well.
Spain,
They don't get it twisted. They need to play well.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
They need one of those performances
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah.
And if they don't bring it, in a one off, Austria can take it from them for sure. So they're gonna have to bring it, but obviously, I think it would be a massive failure for Spain to get knocked out at that juncture of the tournament, especially. Um, but yeah, Austria's not gonna just give it to them or anything. They're gonna have to work for it. Austria are gonna be comfortable in how they want to play. Like
Yeah,
Austria will know the assignment.
yeah.
Um, But I'm looking forward to hearing how you guys enjoy that match out there on Thursday as well. I'm looking forward to hearing all about that. From the perspective of you guys enjoying that match live and in person.
Yeah, appreciate that. We're definitely gonna have we gotta have the whole gang on after that game.
Yeah,
And we
definitely,
can dive
definitely,
right in 100%.
definitely. We'll get that crack a lacking for sure. Not a fraction of a doubt.
All right, Portugal,
Portugal,
Croatia. I want you
Portugal,
to start
Croatia.
here because you have a pick that I respect so much. So please dive
Oh
in.
yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I know in our, when we talked about the tournament before. I still think Portugal are a really talented side, and I think, honestly, I think the way that this bracket sets up is really tough. That's a tough quadrant where only one of
Yeah.
them is gonna, between Spain, Austria, Portugal, Croatia, only one of those is gonna be able to move past the round of 16. I mean, that's a pretty tough draw. Um, you know, I I I don't know, man. I just feel like I've seen this movie before, with Croatia, and I know a little bit. Obviously, Luka Modric is what, 40 now.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys are, but it's one of those things where, I've seen this movie before, with Croatia, and they find their way into the knockout stages, and they get it done. I just think that I don't know. It's just call it a gut feeling. I just feel like Croatia get it done, man. I think they're gonna be able to frustrate Portugal and make it tough. I think Croatia gonna take this one.
I love it. I love it. That's again, so much respect for the pick. I did not have the cojones to pick that. I think Portugal will get it done in a tough game. We know how Croatia are in the knockouts. They make their opponents suffer and really earn it and work for it. In the last run, they advanced in both games by penalties. And remember, against Brazil, Neymar scores in extra time, and Brazil think that it's done and dusted. But what do Croatia do? They come right back and equalize it. Marquinhos misses the penalty, and Croatia advance. So I love the pick, but I think Portugal will learn a lot on this one, and if they do go out in the round of 32, I think Lisbon is going to be uh, riots are going to be thrown in Lisbon. Portugal cannot lose to a Croatian side. So I do think Portugal, just with their individual quality, will get it done. And I haven't been particularly impressed with Croatia in the group stage. I thought, them conceding four against England, maybe they tightened it up in the back line, but narrowly beating Panama and Ghana. It took an 84th minute header to beat Ghana. and Ghana did have their chances as well. Um, I think Croatia it might be just in between generations,
Yeah, it's
and
definitely not their best side. I don't know.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
one of those,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Mhm.
just I don't know, just one of
I
those.
haven't seen Mateo Kovacic whatsoever. I don't know what the deal is there, but you know, while Kova, joined City in a move that I hate, um, I love Kovacic, and I haven't seen him. So
Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably, 10 times, we run that simulation, I'll probably pick Portugal most times, but, running through it, I don't know, just call it a gut feeling. I think Croatia get it done.
yeah.
But obviously I won't be shocked if Portugal win, but I don't know. Even though this isn't the best Croatian side they've had, um, I just call it a gut feeling. I think in a one on, they've been around the block and they've done this before, and obviously in between generations a little bit, but I just think, even though maybe they haven't been totally inspiring in any of those three matches, like you mentioned, they weren't necessarily great against Panama or Ghana. Um, but I just think they'll find a way to close down space and muck it up and frustrate Portugal. And we've seen, outside of the Uzbekistan match, Portugal really haven't been all that great. Um, they've been pretty disappointing in my opinion, and I think Croatia will be able to frustrate them. And I think it's one of those matches where it's a similar theme where the longer Croatia is able to keep it scoreless, I think the
Mhm.
more confident they're going to get.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yep. Yep. I saw a
so
tweet the other day where it was like Roberto Martinez is about to ruin two different golden generations. The first one is 2018 Belgium. In fairness to him, they went to the semis, and the only difference was a set piece corner that Samuel Umtiti scored. That's a tough one, but this one, yeah, he just might ruin Portugal's golden generation, and he's not gonna come back and coach Portugal. So
yeah, I don't know. It's tough, man. Because look, I think I don't want my thoughts to get misconstrued too much because yes, I picked Croatia, call it a gut feeling, but I think that's also more just how I feel about Croatia, and then with Portugal, man, I just you mentioned Roberto Martinez. We've talked a lot about managers. You mentioned Tuchel. Like I don't get that same level of confidence from
yeah,
Roberto Martinez.
yeah,
Uh, so I just it's one of those things where Portugal with a better side. They've got more talent. It won't surprise me, obviously, if Portugal win. And to be honest with you, if Portugal beat Croatia, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I definitely think they could beat Spain and make a run. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like, it's not
right,
like the,
right,
it's not like the, some beat, this is like, what is it? San Marino or something like that. This is
uh huh,
Portugal we're talking
right,
about.
right, right,
This is not Luxembourg or something like that. This is Portugal we're talking about. No offense to Luxembourg or San Marino, but like, uh, yeah, I don't know. Just call it a gut feeling. I think Croatia will frustrate them, and they'll lean a little bit on that experience. In that Ghana match, I mean, dude, it felt like Luka Modric at 40 was everywhere, dude.
yeah,
And I feel like a guy like that, even though he's a lot older, obviously, I mean, his mind is as sharp as it's ever been, and I think they'll, it has the makings to me of one of those uh, nil-nil. Another one I think could go to the distance and go to penalties, mind you.
uh huh,
So I think this one was a pretty tough one for me to pick, though. I think this and the Mexico Ecuador ones, I think,
yeah,
uh, were the two hard, and there's no coincidence, at least the way that I look at it, that I think those are the two most likely to go the distance, in my opinion.
uh huh, yep,
I
yep,
think so we'll see how that one goes. We'll see if Croatia, can get it done or not. But I'm looking forward to that one, especially because, Portugal's got a ton of talent, man. And I think if it does happen and they get knocked out, obviously, some conversations are going to be had. And then obviously, if Croatia lose, I mean, I think they'll be looking at it where okay, how can we get ourselves to replenish the pipeline and move forward. So I'll be interested to come back after that. Because I know that'll be the same day as Spain Austria, so we'll be able to talk about that one as well with the with the fellas.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Moving on
And
to
then
the final game
yeah,
of the day. Yeah.
Switzerland, Algeria. This one's that'll be a tough one. I know you've been high on Algeria, and I know you're not a big fan of the Swiss cheese. I don't know your prediction of this matchup, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I don't know if you're going to rock with Algeria and pick against Switzerland, or if you're going to take the Swiss.
Yeah, pre-action I rated Algeria pretty. I thought that they would be second in the group. Um, that didn't go as planned, and they are no longer. I don't know if it was a matter of just. Well, actually, I mean, I'm going to call it what it is. They didn't start Lucas Zidane against Austria, and he, in fairness, he hasn't had the best of tournaments. Couple of shots that went his way, definitely savable stuff of that nature. But Algeria, dude, they are so sloppy, man. They make a lot of errors in passing, and their back line is just all over the place. It seems like they don't know who to man mark. Like Arnautovic got behind the line so easily for the opening goal. And I just think Switzerland will get it done. Swiss cheese will advance. I haven't been impressed whatsoever. The 19-year-old Ibrahim Maza, I mean, he's only 19, but um, he's a big X factor for them, and he hasn't had the best of tournaments. Again, he's only 19. Okay, so that doesn't mean that for the rest of his career that he can be underwhelming. But his first one hasn't been his best, and I think Swiss will get it done.
Yeah, one of the breakout players of the tournament. I think. I mean, not that he came out of nowhere, but definitely, Johan Monzambi's been a lot of fun to watch, and him and Ruben Vargas really changed the equation for the Swiss. And I think both of them will score again in this matchup, and I think the Swiss will move on fairly comfortably.
Yeah,
Uh, I think Switzerland. Switzerland. We've talked about Switzerland. They're one of those unique sides where they're tough to break down themselves. And then with the X factors that they've got now with Monzambi and Vargas being able to be a little bit of a threat moving forward. I just think they'll be able to keep Algeria at bay on one end, and then on the other end, I think they'll be able to punish Algeria. And I think this will be like a 2-0 type of match. To be honest with you, I cannot see this way. I mean, look, maybe Algeria compete, but I think I'm going to take the Swiss in this one. And I think the Swiss are going to be tough to break down.
yeah,
And the only way Algeria, in my opinion, really find a way to move on is if they're able to keep it at one of these nil-nil sort of matches. But if the Swiss get one, it's done, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. I agree. All right, on to the final day of the round of 32. Your first game is Australia and Egypt. This is a great matchup for both teams. I think if you ask either nation who they wanted to play, obviously not specifically play them, but just um, it's a good matchup for both. I think on paper, Egypt have the better players, but I think in terms of organization and style of play, or organization and discipline rather, Australia are superior, and it'll be a tight game. But I do think just with the quality of players that Egypt have, they go through. And Marmoush has not gotten on the scoreline yet, but has done damage. I know you talked about that in the game against Iran, but they will not lose to Australia in what is likely Mo Salah's last World Cup, and they will get their first, I believe, their first knockout win. Fact check me there. But Egypt will get it done. It'll be like one of those 1-0 or 2-1 games. It's not going to be a goal fest by any stretch of the means. Or Australia will play organized and will make it tough.
Yeah, I am not sure if Egypt have ever won a knockout match. I think they haven't. So we might need someone to fact check the fact check. Although granted, I think I'm pretty confident in that without a fact check, but could be wrong. But yeah, we mentioned Mexico, Ecuador, and Portugal, Croatia as two contenders to go the distance. I think this would be the third match, in my opinion, that I think would be capable of going the distance. You mentioned Australia, an organization. If Australia can keep it compact, I think this has got the I think this at the very least, I could see this being a uh, extra time, additional 30 minutes, maybe even a shootout sort of match. I do think Egypt, just on paper, have a little bit more quality and a little bit more talent. And that's why I lean towards Egypt and taking them. But Australia's not gonna be they're not gonna roll over. It's gonna be they're gonna be compact. Australia's gonna know the assignment. They're gonna be comfortable playing like that because they've done it already. Um, so yeah, I think this has all the makings of a 0-0, 1-1 through 90 minutes sort of deal. I have Egypt in a very slight margin matchup. I think it'll be closer than maybe some people will say in other places. I think Australia definitely can win as well. It won't shock me if they do. But if I had to predict one or the other, I will take Egypt. Um, but I think it'll be a competitive match. I really do.
Yeah, and then Egypt have never won a knockout match, and they've never
Yeah, and
qualified for a.
Egypt also, man, Egypt had I know they've had their base camp in Spokane, and if they would
Uh-huh.
have flipped the group, they would have been able to stay in Seattle, where they've already had 2 matches in the group stages. They've had quite a bit of support, but now instead, I think that this match is gonna be in Jerry World, in Dallas. So I'll be interested to see the attendance turn out because Australia is always going to have good support as well. But one of the factors I think that really helped Egypt in the group stages was I think they had a lot of support. So I'll be interested to see that kind of split with the Australians and the Egyptian supporters and how that atmosphere kind of looks like because I think that could even sway it a little bit as well. But that's a fun little Friday 11 a.m. kickoff, man. I think that'll be a fun little match to kick off the last day of the round of 32, and then you get this next one that I know a lot of people are going to be talking about. Argentina, Cape Verde. I mean, you've got uh, one of the bright spots, I guess you could say, of the group stages was Cape Verde being able to make it into the knockout stages. 3 matches, 3 draws, and that gets them into second place with a date against Argentina. Um, I know you kind of mentioned it off the record, where if you're Argentina, you're licking your chops at the fact that you've got Cape Verde in a round of 32, and then one of Australia or Egypt in a round of 16.
Don't even get me started there. Don't even, Ryan. Don't.
That's the whole purpose, baby. Get you
Uh,
started.
but regarding Egypt and the attendance in Jerry World, bro, Egyptians will walk to Jerry World from Spokane, dude. They'll
Oh,
be there. They'll be there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, they'll be there. No,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just no, I don't doubt the point that I was trying to make is that I'll be interested to see
The split. Yeah.
the split
Yeah, yeah,
exactly
yeah,
because
yeah.
even like in the when Australia played the US, there was a pretty sizable contingent of Australians
Yeah.
to come, you know. So I will be interested to see that split because, like you mentioned, I mean, dude, the Egyptians they're gonna be out in full force, man. They'll be there, like you said, they'll walk from Spokane, from Egypt, wherever, bro. They will be there. Like they will take it, and that's part of the reason why I'm taking Egypt too. Is I'm betting on the Egyptians traveling pretty well, and because credit to Egypt, they've had great support in all their matches so far.
Yeah, yeah, they have.
And that's been a big difference for them is having that atmosphere for them and having a really in all 3 matches in the group stages, they had more of the support in all 3 of those matches.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
and with Argentina, Cape Verde, I mean, how does this happen, man? I know it's not their fault, okay? Yes, yes, heard loud and clear, but come on, man. Are you like you gotta be kidding me? Like, are you
yeah,
serious? Are you joking me right now? This is, I mean, it's a matter of how many goals are Argentina gonna score. I mean, it's as simple as that. I give all the respect in the world to Cabo Verde, and I hope that this is an opportunity for them to um, really just to build off of this as a nation, moving forward in AFCON tournaments and future World Cups. But I mean, is it going to be 4-0? Is it going to be 5-0? Is it going to be 6-0? That's the type of question here with Argentina, Cape Verde. Yes, it was a scoreless draw against Spain, and Vozinha was incredible. He got 5 million Instagram followers off of like 100,000 or something, or maybe even lower. But Spain are struggling to find the net at this snapshot in time, and Argentina are not. And they just faced the Jordanian side that played a 3-4-3 formation, played tight and compact, and they put three. So it's just a matter of how many goals is going to be.
okay. Yeah, I think it would be really cool to see Cape Verde be able to keep it compact and make that a match and really give Argentina everything they can handle. Um, I mean, I think it's a similar theme that we've been talking about, and there's no match that embodies it more than the last two that we're going to talk about. It's going to be 10 behind the ball. It's going to be defend with every ounce that you've got, and we're taking this as deep as we can take it, 0-0. With these last two, with this one and the last match we'll talk about to round out the round of 32, that's going to be the blueprint. I mean, you've seen it with Cape Verde in three matches, three draws. They know how they're going to play. Argentina know how they're going to play. Everybody knows how they're going to play. It's just a matter of are they going to be able to execute that game plan against Argentina, who is one of the favorites to win the whole thing. I think if Cape Verde are able to do that and keep it scoreless as long as they can, regardless of the result, it only adds to how amazing of a run it's been. Regardless of what happens, it will be that even if they get blasted. Um, I do have a feeling though. I think they can keep it scoreless a little bit longer than I think. But I think look, I'm not picking Cape Verde. I'm taking Argentina, obviously. I mean, I think Argentina's looking their chops, man. They get Cape Verde and then either Australia or Egypt. Um, I think Argentina's looking their chops, thinking, okay, we got a good stretch here with these two matches. And you know what, too, man? We talk about atmosphere and support. Like, the Argentinians are going to be out in full force, and that's going to be an edge for them, in that side of the little bracket that they've got going on. Um, so yeah, look, it's gonna be a tall task for Cape Verde, man. I mean, their only chance is really to take it to a shootout and hope for the best. That's really the only shot they've got. But uh, you know, I think if you're Argentina, you're looking at it. Well, can we break them down early? You mentioned Jordan. That Argentina scored pretty early against Jordan. They scored in the first half against Austria. They scored pretty early against Algeria. It's been a theme of theirs so far in the three matches at the World Cup. If they can score, if they score in the first 20, 30 minutes, it's over.
Right. Right.
So it really just comes down to that.
Yep. Yep. And our final game in the round of 32 is Colombia Ghana. You and I have both spoken so highly of Colombia, but if one thing was exposed in the Congo game and in the Portugal game, it's their lack of having a striker. Luis Suarez at Sporting is just not having a good tournament at all. And he hasn't scored anything. He's getting the chances. They're feeding him the ball and he's just not scoring them. So will he finally get going? Because correct me if I'm wrong, he had a good season at Sporting,
Yeah,
right?
he hit it. Yeah, he
Yeah.
scored over. I think
Yeah.
it was almost 30 goals at Sporting.
Yeah. 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 He had a great season at Sporting. So and then I know that that Cordoba did start. Same deal. I'm just not convinced about him as a striker. And you probably saw this. What Portugal did against on Luis Diaz is they're doubling him. They're not allowing him to really cut in and blast one. That's his signature move. Even if he does get past the two that are doubling him, when he does cut in, he's got a wall of defenders where if he does attempt the shot, it 9 times out of 10 is going to get blocked. So they're not showing enough respect for Cordoba or Luis Suarez. And it's been tough for Lucho to score because of that. Is James gonna finally score? He's been shooting those balls long distance. They're on target. Maybe one against Congo could have gone in if their keeper didn't make a great save. So that's the one thing right now where I'm decently concerned about Colombia. And Ghana are gonna do that exact same thing, man. They're gonna double Luis Diaz. And if they want to score, dude, it's got to be Daniel Munoz. He's their top scorer right now with 2 goals, frankly. So this is gonna be like I think it can be a similar scoreline of 1-0, like they did against Congo, because of that, in Ghana's style of play. So Colombia will go through, but it's gonna be similar to that Congo game where they're gonna have possession and they're gonna have those great looks on goal. And I think Ghana's keeper has done really well this tournament. He's another goalie that hasn't gotten as much media coverage.
Oh yeah, he's been
Result,
great.
he's done great, dude. Yeah, he's done
Yeah.
wonderful.
Him and
So,
him and the we didn't mention it when we were talking about Japan. The Japanese keeper's really
oh
impressive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Suzuki, no?
Yeah, yeah, dude, he
Yeah,
looks exactly like Rui Hachimura.
I
Uh,
know, bro. I know. Yeah, it's so
but
true.
yeah, yeah, it's Heian Suzuki. He's been really good too. He looks really nice in goal, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ghana's keeper's been really good too. I mean, putting it full circle, I mean, it's been a similar theme. I think this matchup, actually, this is probably the fourth matchup that I would say potentially, maybe goes extra distance.
mm-hmm.
You know, so look, Ghana's gonna put 10 behind the ball. They're gonna defend their ass off. That's the Carlos
Yep,
Queiroz special. That's what they're gonna do. You've mentioned Colombia's struggles to score. Um, but you know what? It's the perfect match to tie everything together because we talked about it with atmosphere. I mean, dude, the Colombians are going to be in full force, man. It's one of the reasons why I think we both wanted to take them to top the group. It's one of
yeah,
the reasons, I think it's one of the reasons we both think that, and I'm sure we're not the only ones that think they can make a deep run in the
yeah,
tournament.
yeah,
And maybe even make it as far as the last, whether it's the quarterfinals or the semifinals, whatever it is, like they could really make a run. And part of that is because in almost every match that they're going to play, they're going to have a sizable contingent of people there that are going to be making all kinds of noise, regardless of what. I mean, you mentioned Egypt and the fact that they'll walk from wherever. Like, dude, the Colombians are gonna they'll do the same thing, man. Wherever it's going to be, they're going to be out there in full force, and I think that will take Colombia over the edge. I think Ghana will make it tough for them.
Yeah.
Even with that they know the assignment. They've done it to England. Um, I think they'll take comfort and confidence in that. Um, I think they'll know what they want to do. But I just think that atmosphere of all the Colombian support, I'm projecting that I think will push them over the edge, and it will be something that will make them incredibly tough to beat, no matter who they play.
Yeah, yeah, and I already know that Carlos Queiroz is just telling his guys that, hey, um, their only threat, frankly, are on the wings, and
Yeah, you
you know,
close down space, right?
yeah,
Like you said,
yeah,
double 'em.
yeah,
Yeah, to put two. Yeah, I think Carlos and company will take comfort in the fact that there's been a blueprint already of how to stop them, and
uh-huh,
if you can blend that with what they've been able to show, because Carlos hasn't been even managing the team for that long. Let's not forget
yeah,
that either.
yeah,
But I mean, regardless of whether he's been there for a month or a year or a decade, you know how he's going to want to play. So I
yeah,
think they'll look. I think they'll make it tough. They'll find a way to grind the game out, and I think it's the perfect match to bring everything together, because it's everything we've talked about. It's going to be 10 behind the ball. Can we keep it nil-nil as long as possible, and then maybe catch them on the counter if we get a chance here and there, and see if we can
right,
take our moment.
right, right.
Um, but my brother, any concluding thoughts here to wrap this baby up? Now that we've gone through every match at around the 32.
I just want to speak on what's been happening for some of the eliminated teams and the fallout of their elimination at the group stage, especially with this expanded format. Shout out to AFCON. 9 of 10 teams advanced to the round of 32. That is exceptional. That is a new level for the AFCON, for the African Conference. And football is being elevated there, and um, you know, eh, hey, it's no longer just the days of simply Ivory Coast and Nigeria, right, that are spearheading and leading um, the African Conference. So that's remarkable, and a big shout out to them. Let's talk about some bad news here. Um, Couple of coaches with some expectations have resigned, and one of them, it's been quite sad what's happened here. I want to start with talking about with Korea. You had the South Korea president, Lee Jae-myung, said this: "I am not just taken aback by this unexpected outcome. I am utterly baffled." And in a lengthy statement, he cited the significant taxpayer funds used for the team's participation, apologized for the disappointment, and um, he's calling for the Korean FA to investigate what the heck went wrong. And uh, the coach has Hung Myung Bo. He resigned, and it's reported that him, along with several other players, are going back to South Korea overnight to avoid confrontation, and they are not releasing and announcing when the other players on the team and the rest of the roster that went are coming back to South Korea. That's the first one. The second one is the Scotland head coach Steve Clark. He resigned. This is a guy who has managed the Scots for 7 years. He even signed an extension before the World Cup. And with what transpired with Scotland, he resigned, and a new voice will be there. And he's been criticized for just the the mistakes that were made and them not advancing to the round of 32. Scotland is a side that do have the better players. You know, they have better players on their team and guys playing in the Premier League and whatnot. So um, he's out too. We already talked about Tunis and their coach after one game, but Herve Renard has given a list of demands for him to come back. He wants more money for him and his staff. He wants say and control over the Tunis roster, and he wants about little under a year of him having the ability to implement his ideas and tactics without him looking over his shoulder for his job. So, um, and apparently, I've been told, not I've been told, I'm not some freaking insider for God's sake, but what they're
Hey, you
saying
could be.
is,
You could be.
yeah, man, maybe, but what they're saying is the Uruguayan FA canceled the private jet to for the Uruguayan players to return, and everybody is just flying commercial flights. So, hey, if anybody's going back to Uruguay, or maybe some of these guys are going back to um, Spain or whatever respective club their country is, you might find an Uruguayan player sitting next to you,
Phew.
and I think it's painfully obvious that Marcelo Bielsa will resign, and there's going to be a new era for Uruguay.
Right? You said it best, man. Sometimes there's multiple sides to the thing. So, we're talking about these teams that are still alive and competing for something, but then there's another piece to the puzzle, which is
The
the sides
fallout.
that have been on. Yeah, the fallout of elimination. And, I'm sure depending on how these round of 32 knockout stage matches goes, we might have a couple of more data points with some pretty steep fallout as well.
Hmm.
So can't wait to continue to add pieces to that discussion as we move forward. But I'm glad you brought that up because that's an equally as important part of, uh, you know, our World Cup conversations, man.
Yep, yep.
Well, my brother, I really can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to make this happen. Much love, my brother. Um, we'll definitely look forward to many more, man. Continue to chop it up.
Yeah, yeah, can't wait. Today's game was just the teaser of the knockouts.
There you
So
go.
very excited for tomorrow's matches and tomorrow's slate.
All right, brother. Cheers to it. Much love, my man. Take care of yourself. To the people out there, cheers to a great week ahead. Let's end June with a banger and start July even better than June, baby. Much love.